So you've just wrapped your production and you're ready to jump right into editing. But because this is 360, we have 6 cameras to deal with, and media management is absolutely key. Each of the cameras is labeled with a number, and we're going to start with camera number 1 and go step by step through the process to make sure that we properly organize all of our files in order to stitch correctly. The first step is simply just to take out the micro SD card and plug it into the card reader. Once the card is mounted, you'll notice that each MP4 that the camera has recorded is named by GoPro's file naming structure. And we're going to actually want to rename this according to our own file structure just to stay perfectly organized. And we found that the best method is to simply create folders for each take. So as you can see, we've created folders for takes 1, take 2, take 3, take 4, etc. And we're going to take our first clip and drop it into the take 1 folder. We will then rename this clip to take 1 camera 1. And for the next clip, we'll drop it into folder 2 and name that take 02 camera 1, and so forth. Once each take is ingested, we're going to repeat the exact same process for the remaining 5 cameras. Once you have each take from each camera into your folders, you're going to want a quality check to make sure that every clip is in the proper order, because if just one clip is out of place, your stitching software won't be able to sync everything correctly, and thus you won't be able to stitch everything into a perfect sphere. Once you've quality checked all of your clips and made sure they're all in the right order, we're going to take everything into our stitching software. In this case, we're using Autopano Video Pro, which we simply take in our clips, drop it in, and now we have our clips in the project. Now if we scrub forward in our clip, you'll notice there's a moment where I clap for the camera. Remember those little audio claps that Brent told you about? This is why we do this. We are going to sync everything using audio. Once everything is synchronized, we're going to hit apply. All the clips are now lined up, and now we go to stitch it. What's really great about this software in particular is that it actually has a built-in Freedom 360 template that only requires you to push one button and everything stitches in place. So now we have a nice panoramic view of our 360 shoot. And for the most part, this looks pretty good. But upon closer inspection, you're inevitably going to notice that there's a little bit of messiness between the stitches, maybe some of the lighting won't match between the cameras, and this is completely normal. In order to smooth everything out and make it into a perfect panorama, we're going to have to use Autopano's other program, Autopano Giga. In this program, you can adjust your panoramic stitch any way you'd like. For instance, our horizon line is kind of wavy right now, so in order to fix that, we're going to use the vertical align tool. With this tool, we're going to trace all vertical lines, and at the hit of a button, your horizon line is not properly aligned. You'll also notice that the lighting between the cameras doesn't really quite match, so to fix this, we're going to use the blend tool. And now our lighting matches between all the cameras. You also have the ability to adjust individual cameras. For instance, I'm going to click this one, and I can move it around the frame, I can rotate it, I can make it shrink and grow, whatever I need in order for the cameras to line up and create a clean stitch. In other words, Autopano Giga provides a plethora of tools in order for you to create a perfectly smooth panorama. And once you're satisfied with that, it's time to prep this thing for editing. So now we're ready to export out of Autopano Video Pro. And in this program, it's actually called Render. When rendering out of Autopano Video Pro, there's only 2 major settings to keep in mind. The frame size should be 3840 by 1920, and the frame rate needs to be 29.97. This provides you with the highest quality that the Freedom 360 can provide. As you can see, our settings are correct. We're going to go ahead and hit render. Now that you've rendered your video, it's time to open up our editing software. In our case, we're using Adobe Premiere. At this point, you can start editing like you would any other 2D video. You can apply color correction, titles, special effects like gunshot muzzle flashes. It basically works the exact same way as a 2D video. Only there's a few things you need to keep in mind because this is a panoramic video that we're going to be stretching into a sphere. First, you should be aware of the edge of the frame. All of the work we did in Autopano Giga was to create the illusion of a seamless sphere. But because we're working in a panoramic view in Premiere, we actually have to be really conscious about the edge of the frame. If a title or if an effect goes over the edge, when we go to wrap that back together again, we're going to get a really hard line right in the sphere, thus breaking the illusion. Next, in 360, the YouTube viewer is only showing you a small portion of the entire sphere. Keep this in mind when creating titles in the panoramic view in your editing software. If you make a title too large, it may exceed the field of view that the video player provides. And if you want to make sure that your title is not exceeding the field of view, you can always preview your video in a program called Kolor Eyes. This free software allows you to view your video in its final spherical form. The very last thing you should concern yourself with is actually rather important. If you look down in your video, you're gonna notice the rig that your camera was mounted to. And there are a number of ways for you to remove this from your video. We found success in using the Content Aware tool in Photoshop. But there are numerous plugins and programs you can use, such as Skybox Studio, that will accomplish the exact same effect. Once you've completed the edit of your video and put in all of the mixed sound, it's time to export. And this is the exact same process as you would a traditional video, only you need to keep 3 major settings in mind. The frame size should be 3840 by 1920, the frame rate should be 29.97, and most importantly, you need to export as an MP4, which means an H.264 codec. So now you might be thinking, my video is ready to upload. Well, we actually have just one more step, because at the moment, our video is still locked in a panoramic view. And in order to create it into a sphere, we need to use a program called 360 Video Metadata. It's actually a very simple program. We simply select the MP4 that we exported from Premiere, hit open, hit inject and save, name this my 360 video, hit save, and just like that, we now have a spherical video that we can upload to YouTube. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that your video at first will process as a low-res panoramic view. Eventually, it'll wrap itself into a low-res spherical view and then a high-res spherical view. It just requires a little bit of patience, but eventually, you'll get your high-res, totally spherical 360 video and you are totally done. So congratulations, you just made your first 360-degree video. If you have any questions about the previous steps up to this point, you can look at those by clicking on these videos here, or if you have any questions about posts, you can just watch this video again. It's not going anywhere at all. Oh yeah, and I've also been told that you should subscribe.
Subscribe to the space.
Right? Subscribe to the space, yes. Yep. Subscribe to the space.
It's super easy, it's free, highly encouraged.
And we need subscribers spherically.
Nope, that's like one step too far.
We need subscribers panoramically.
Perfect.
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 It's gonna be great.
It's gonna be great.
It's gonna be great.
It's gonna be great.